Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, and we welcome back to the radio, the Mayor of the Kapiti Coast. Guru, good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, John. Good morning to the listeners.
I noticed something in stuff the other day, people looking for property eyeing up the Kapiti Coast as demand heats up, and it looks as if the average asking price is at $685,000 for the average property in Kapiti. Goodness gracious me. Things are really happening here, Guru. Not all of them good.
Yeah, put it this way. For some people who have invested in property, both the houses they're living in now and when they have rental properties, invested rental properties, this will come as good news for them in terms of their capital value, their ability to borrow against the capital value that they've got. It will be really good news. But for a lot of other people, it would not. But this is not surprising. We knew that the transmission gully opening, and now that they've firmly established September next year to be the opening deadline, we always knew the opening of transmission gully will start making a huge change in terms of demand for properties up here. The other thing, of course, is the COVID management isolation, which made working from home one of the optional choices of people who were forced to actually work from home. I think that in itself depends on another thing that's been developing for a decade or more, and that is both the Labour government initially and then the national government had been investing in the digital highway, if you like,
yes.
The fibre to our home. And so when you have a situation where there was a requirement for people to work from home, you already have the digital highway to help doing that. So Kapiti, for instance, is actually most of the houses have got access to that. So people could shift the digital work, put it this way, there's been a digital shift towards working online, much greater than we would have been before. So we've been forced to that. Certainly people have realized that actually, in terms of lifestyle and lifestyle choices, you can actually work from a distance from your original workplace.
Yeah.
I think that has made a huge difference.
So in the old days, we used to talk about this digital landscape as overcoming the tyranny of distance, and this was a very good thing for a distance country as such as New Zealand. But in a way, you're explaining that it's overcoming the tyranny of commuting as well.
That's right. Beautifully put, John. The tyranny of commuting. So but we know that that this is going to happen, and also we discussed the last time we were talking. We discussed the national policy statement on urban development.
Yes,
and we talked about increasing the density in urban zones near public transport nodes. And that's that's going to happen in the next 30 years. This increasing development, which we don't want an urban sprawl. Although I think people come to the Kapiti Coast to have as close to the quarter-acre paradise as they can get to. So that is a factor. But the planning is starting to happen to accommodate this. The only problem I see, and it's a major problem, and I go back to the last 2 weeks, I had 3 letters from locals who are desperately wanting affordable housing.
yeah.
They just can't get it. Rents are getting higher. The ability to purchase, get into the first step in the ladder of a property of their own is getting harder and more expensive. And we are not having that. And we know that developers will want their profit margins to be large, and therefore they are in the market for developing higher value houses than the affordable homes. This is a critical problem. In one hand, we say surely this is a central government problem to sort this out. But I think local government has a role in this, and we need to discover a position whereby we can actually leverage whatever powers the local authorities have to start increasing supply of affordable homes.
Good point you make about the rents going up because of the rent freeze, which was part of the COVID-19 response. That's coming off shortly. I imagine they'll be just rocketing away. In fact, I know of some renters who've already received the letter saying their rent's going up the day after the freeze is taken off. So if there's problems now, there's going to be even more problems in the very near future.
I think there was a person I talked to during just before the election in October last year, and we were looking at launching what's called the ethical landlord movement, which has happened in other places, in other countries. That is to appeal to the moral values of landlords. Just because the market says that you can demand higher rent does not mean that you have to actively pursue that from a moral perspective.
But aren't you slightly surprised that, according to that Stuff article, the average asking price for a house in the Kapiti coast has gone up 16%, a 16% increase on the same month last year, when much of that year has been involved in this once-in-a-lifetime COVID-19 response, which everyone, including me, thought meant there was going to be, well, there is a recession. We're officially in a recession. But that doesn't seem to have affected the house prices yet.
Yeah, there's a sort of some kind of disconnect.
Yes.
In there. And I think a lot of people didn't anticipate that. And I think the only economic commentator was Samuel Jacob, who said, I actually don't know what's going to happen. He's right.
Well, it's honest enough, isn't it?
So there is a disconnect down there. And, there are people Kiwis returning from overseas. And I'm sure that they're bringing, some of them will be the poorer cousins or our cousins who are poorer. I think a significant number of them would be people who are bringing the capital back into the country.
And we've been hearing about local houses that have been bought sight unseen by people overseas who are just queuing up to try and get into the country. Yeah,
but I disagree with Michael Seymour Paul Poppy when he said that the price of sections are going up because there's a limited supply in the region. I'm going to have a chat with him tomorrow. I suspect he's talking about a short-term supply because we know that for more than a decade or more, there have been landlords who have land banked it and just they've been waiting for the transmission Gully project to happen, and then they can get very high returns for developing the land.
Yes.
And also, if you look at the new airport owners, I think they're putting pressure, and their argument is to convert the airport land for housing. I think they are wrong in one sense because there is no shortage of land. The national policies, urban capacity statement, which was initiated by the government three years ago, they require all the councils in the country to project demand for both residential properties and commercial properties. Mm-hmm. And what the study that was done for the Kapiti Coast shows clearly that we have more than ample land both for commercial development and residential development. Looking at Waikanae North and Otaki, we do have it.
Despite that, the prices of sections are going up. You've signalled the fact that you believe that there is a role for local councils in the housing crisis. What do you think the Kapiti Coast can reasonably do without putting too much of an imposition on the ratepayers?
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes that this council has done is from the time that the National Task Force on Housing put forward its list of recommendations to the long-term plan. One of the recommendations was for a demand needs assessment, which I think Lower Hutt had done, but we were waiting for the regional work to be done, and that didn't happen. I think we should have invested in that much earlier, because the problem that I have is that the MSD has got a methodology of measuring what the needs are, and they have a method where people come to the office and then register the need. And using that register, I think consistently they've come up to figure around the 120, 130, 140 mark. But anecdotal response from the NGOs that operate in this district shows very clearly that we have a need of 300 or more. But unless we have evidence-based data that shows this need, from the mayor's office, I cannot go and rattle the cages of government agencies like the MSD, or even talk to the Minister, Phil Tyford, on this, because we don't have the data.
Lovely to talk to you once again. Thank you very much for your company here on Beach FM. K.Gurunathan of the Kapiti Coast. Thank you, sir.
106.3 Beach FM.